arriving in Korea again at the exact same time as the innovative love alarm app, which notifies you when someone within 100 meters has feelings for you, is launched. High school student Hwang Sun-oh shows up at school to find his phone flooded with notifications. It seems like every girl at the school likes him, except for a girl named Kim Jojo, who, not being able to download the app on her outdated phone, doesn't ping his love alarm. Plus, Jojo already had a boyfriend named Jing Il-sik, and intrigued by her indifference, Sun-oh becomes fascinated with Jojo after they lock eyes on the school stairs. Despite learning that she has a boyfriend, Sun-oh continues to follow Jojo around, eventually running into her at a cosmetics store and a bus stop. When Jojo tells him not to follow her unless he's interested in her, Sun-oh continues to walk behind her, eventually following her into an alleyway. Chatting, Jojo quickly opens up to Sun-oh and explains that she didn't exactly have the easiest childhood growing up without parents. Sun-oh responds by kissing her, and when she pulls away, annoyed, she asks if he has ever been listening to her, and Sun-oh hadn't been, and he kisses her again. Running to take shelter under a bus stop when the sky suddenly breaks out into a typical Korean rain shower. When Jojo eventually makes it to her part-time job, her boss was furious. How could she be so late? It is here that we learn more about how Jojo is financially struggling, having been in debt for 11 years. At the same time, we find Hae-hyung, Sun-oh's best friend, sitting alone. The son of the domestic helper who works for Sun-oh's wealthy family, Hae-hyung, also has a crush on Jojo and has been trying to find the courage to ask her out. So when Sun-oh comes home and brags about his kiss with Jojo, Hae-hyung was hurt. Sun-oh could choose any girl in the whole school, so why did it have to be the one that he liked? The next day at school, we start to see how complicated the love alarm can make things. For example, Il-sik thanks to Jojo for pinging his love alarm, which she didn't do because remember, she doesn't have love alarm, at least not yet. At the same time, Jojo's cousin, popular girl Gul-mi, mistakenly thinks that Sun-oh pinged her love alarm, only to be disappointed when she learns that was actually Do-gu, an unpopular boy who likes her. Later, Do-gu confides in Jojo and breaks down in tears when he explains how much being constantly rejected by Gul-mi was hurting him. While Do-gu and Jojo were in the park, Il-sik confronts Sun-oh at school. It seems photos of Sun-oh and Jojo's secret kiss are now all over social media, leading to a fight that Hae-hyung had to break up. By the end of the day, both Jojo, who Do-gu had given the phone, had been planning to give Gul-mi, and Hae-hyung had finally downloaded the Love Alarm app. Having watched the video of the fight between her boyfriend and Sun-oh, Jojo admits to Il-sik that it wasn't her who'd rung his alarm, basically admitting that she didn't have feelings for him anymore, and then they break up. Another person who was upset about the fight was Sun-oh's mother, who can't believe the Sun-oh, who also works as a model, could get into this type of brawl with a photo shoot coming up. The next day, Sun-oh promises Jojo that it wasn't him who'd leaked the photos of their kiss, and just then, Hae-hyung arrives and sees Sun-oh's phone light up with a notification. Later, as Jojo heads home from work, a persistent Sun-oh follows her, encouraging her to activate the love alarm. Syncing their phones, both Sun-oh and Jojo's apps are pinged, and although they were matched, over the next few days, Sun-oh starts to show some red flag behavior, especially when he tells Jojo not to talk about boy bands, idols, or basically any kind of boy, but instead of being turned off, Jojo and Sun-oh grow closer. As for Hae-hyung having fallen off his bike and going to the nurse's office, when Jojo walks past, her love alarm lights up. At the same time as Sun-oh walks toward her, she gets another notification. Realizing that both Sun-oh and Hae-hyung like her, Jojo suddenly finds herself in the middle of a love triangle. As Jojo tries to process the fact that both Sun-oh and Hae-hyung like her, Sun-oh brings up their upcoming school trip to Jeju Island, and Jojo didn't want to go. Persuading Jojo to skip work, Sun-oh takes her skating, while Hae-hyung, feeling dejected, goes home. Stopping for a moment while crossing the bridge, Hae-hyung decides to delete the Love Alarm app, After all, Jojo seems happy with Sun-oh. The next day, Sun-oh makes a scene in the cafeteria by sharing food with Jojo, obsessing over her eating habits. When rumors start to swirl around school, Gul-mi suggests that Sun-oh should date her instead of Jojo, but he accuses her of being interested only in his fame. Offering her an ultimatum to leave him and Jojo alone, Gul-mi ends up storming off, noticing Jojo watching from a distance. Behind the scenes, Sun-oh was also struggling with his emotions, recalling the abuse he went through thanks to his mother in a flashback. Rushing to Jojo hoping that she can comfort him, he finds her on a bridge having just been kicked out of the house by her aunt, who resents her for her debts. Rescuing Jojo on the bridge, Sun-oh gives her a shoulder to lean on, and they go to share a meal together. Having changed her mind over the next couple of days, Jojo and Sun-oh, as well as the rest of their class, get to Jeju, and while enjoying their class trip, the group ends up playing Truth or Dare, using their phones and the Love Alarm app to show who likes whom. Jang-go, Jojo's best friend, who it has been revealed likes Il-sik, much to his confusion, and Il-sik, however, keeps their phones off, and eventually Jang-go storms off. When Jojo follows, she learns that it was Jang-go who had spread the photos of Jojo and Sun-oh kissing online. Feeling betrayed and overwhelmed, Jojo starts to see smoke and fire. In the middle of a panic attack, Jojo runs into Sun-oh's arm, and escaping to the bay, Sun-oh and Jojo hold each other until sunrise. However, on their way back, Sun-oh and Jojo get into a motorcycle accident, leaving Jojo drifting in and out of consciousness as she recalls all the tragedies that have happened in her life. Fast forward to 1500 days after the Love Alarm app's release, and having paid off all her debt, Jojo was no more invested in the app than before it first got released. As for Sun-oh, well, now he has another girlfriend. Hae-hyung, however, is still single. Briefly going back to the day of the accident, as Jojo and Sun-oh came out of the hospital, Duko showed up and offered Jojo a new add-on to the Love Alarm app, a shield that blocks notifications. In the future again, we see a shocking scene. A mass grave filled with bodies, their phones all showing no one in 100 meters loves you, when word of a mass self-offing comes out. Disturbed by the tragedy, Sun-oh confronts his parents about it, but they respond indifferently. As for the other characters, despite this news, life carries on as normal, and Gul-mi taunts Jojo about Sun-oh's new girlfriend named Yuk-jo, and at the library, Jojo meets Hae-young, who it seems has done a lot of maturing since his high school days. Later, Hae-young offers Jojo his study spot at the library, charmingly admitting he's trying to get her attention the old-fashioned way, leaving Jojo stunned. Finally, having decided to shoot his shot, Hae-young also goes to tell Sun-oh that he's going to try and woo Jojo. Sun-oh was also fuming inside, but of course, he couldn't show it. Instead, he goes to visit Jojo, triggering her love alarm and warning her to stay away from Hae-young. In a flashback, we see Duk-gu, who had been one of the key developers of Love Alarm this whole time, deletes a group photo that he had on his phone, turns off his computer, and tragically jumps off from his window. In another flashback, we see that Jojo broke up with Sun-oh during their high school years, using the shield to literally shield her feelings and worries about their relationship after their motorcycle accident, and spiraling at school. Sun-oh orders that everyone leave their 10-meter radius. Opening their Love Alarm apps, Sun-oh couldn't believe that Jojo wasn't pinging his phone. What had he done wrong? As the days turn into weeks, Sun-oh continues to chase after Jojo, eventually calling her heartless before walking away and finally giving up. Back to the future, Gul-mi was determined to join the exclusive Love Alarm badge club and steals 3 million won from Jojo. When confronted about it, Gul-mi mentions that she is sure that when she meets the Love Alarm developer, he will fall for her, ironically unaware that Duk-gu, whom she despises, is the actual developer. Meanwhile, Jojo again runs into Hae-young, who would actually come to say goodbye. Despite loving JoJo, he had decided to move to Busan for a fresh start. Also thinking of moving, Sun-oh, feeling bored with life, discusses with Yuk-jo whether they should just go back to America. At the same time, Gu-mi is given 3 million won from one single livestream viewer. Having learned that Hye-hyung was moving away, Sun-oh shows up at JoJo's workplace, but she was not there. No, in fact, JoJo was with Hye-hyung and was busy explaining how the love alarm shield works. Behind the scenes, JoJo had actually grown really frustrated with the shield and tried to turn it off, but realized that only the developer can disable the shield. Reassuring her, Hye-hyung draws closer, ringing her alarm and bringing a smile to her face. After a romantic date with Hye-hyung, JoJo heads home but finds Sun-oh, and she admits to Sun-oh that she used to like him, but she doesn't know her feelings now. Meanwhile, Gu-mi continues to entertain the one person watching her live streams, and as tensions rise, Sun-oh accuses Hye-hyung of using him to get closer to JoJo, admitting to his former best friend that he still has feelings for JoJo. Their fight was interrupted by Yuk-jo, who looks into Sun-oh's yearbook, curious about who this mysterious JoJo was. On the day of the Love Alarm 2.0 launch, anti-Love Alarm protesters arrive, led by a mysterious person hidden in a van. In the auditorium, the Badge Club members learn that the new features of Love Alarm will predict one's true feelings, as explained by the developer, who turns out to be a man named Brian Chon, not Duke-gu. In the hallway after the presentation, JoJo finds herself face to face with Yuk-jo, Sun-oh, and Hye-hyung, and it was time for her to decide her true feelings.